Okay, so types of reactions. Okay, so the first type of reaction we're going to look at is a synthesis. If you remember back in biology, we talked about DNA synthesis or photosynthesis. In all these cases, synthesis meant to build something, be it building a sugar using light energy or building a new DNA. So in this case, we're building a compound from two different elements. So we start with two different elements and we wind up with one compound. So synthesis starts with two and winds up with one. Decomposition, and again, going back to your biology class last year, decomposition means to break down. So what we're doing here is we are breaking down our compound into its individual components. So we start with our compound, and we wind up with our two different elements. So this is decomposition. So again, synthesis is building, putting them together. Decomposition is to break down or to separate. So synthesis to put together, decomposition to take apart. Single replacement or single displacement both mean the same thing. You'll see them depending on what book you're reading differently. So we start with AB plus an element, and basically the A and the C have changed places. And usually this is a metal, and the B is a non-metal. So the A just changed partners. It was partnered with B, and then it moves to C. So they're just switching places. So the B just switched partners. Double displacement or double replacement. And we need to go ahead and add a D here because somehow I forgot those. So A and B is paired, C and D is paired. The A and the C just switch. So we just have two of them switch places. So what you notice about this one is there are four parts to it. The single, there were three parts of it. One element by itself, and then your compound. This one has two compounds yielding two compounds. And the last broad type that we're going to talk about is combustion. So combustion, you'll have a compound that includes carbon, usually carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, but sometimes there'll be some other things in it too. You'll have O2, and you will always yield CO2, water, and sometimes another substance. So this part is always there. So anytime you see that, the O2 yields CO2 and water, then you have a combustion reaction. Okay, so within those that we just talked about, synthesis, the building, taking two and making one, decomposition, taking one and making two, single displacement, and combustion are all what's called oxidation reduction reactions or redox reactions. And all that means is that electrons are being transferred from one element to another. So you know that some sort of ions are being formed. So again, if you see a synthesis reaction, a decomposition reaction, single displacement, or combustion, then it is a redox reaction. Electrons are moving around. Double replacement or displacement reactions have two types within those, either acid bases or a precipitate a precipitate reaction. The acid bases, also called neutralization reactions, because remember, if going back to probably middle school, acids and bases are on the pH scale. So acids and bases are on the pH scale, and uh, 0 to 7 is an acid, and 7 to 14 is a base. So an acid always has an H on it, and OH is always on your base. So HCl would be hydrochloric acid. NaOH is a base, sodium hydroxide, but that is a base. And so it's going to produce H2O and sodium chloride and salt. In this case, it is salt. But remember, a salt is usually any of those ionic bonds, a metal and a nonmetal. So your acid has a hydrogen on it. Your base has an OH on it. One gives electrons, one takes electrons. And then the H and the OH form the water. So that is the acid-base reaction. So to determine an acid-base reaction, look at your two products or your two reactants and look for the hydrogen on one and the OH on the other. And then look at your products and look for water. A precipitate reaction, two solutions combine to form a solid and a liquid. Basically, if it's not an acid-base reaction, so if you don't see that hydrogen on the acid and OH for the base yielding water, then it's going to be a precipitate reaction. And that is it for types of reactions. Thanks and have a great day.